The Republican Party has a sex offender problem. Nearly every single Republican candidate campaigning for a Senate seat in a battleground state this year has a documented pattern of running cover for sex offenders, particularly those that prey on children. And when so many of the party's highest profile candidates keep cozying up to sexual predators, it's hard to believe the Republican Party when they claim that they're the party of protecting children. So let's take a look at the candidates in question and talk about the ways that each have chosen to protect sexual predators and betray survivors over and over again. In Montana, Republican candidate Kurt Alme has a history of letting sex offenders who target children off the hook. In February of 2020, while Alme was serving as Montana's Attorney General, Alme cut a deal with predator Michael Thomas Damon after Damon admitted to molesting a 6-year-old child. Thanks to the incredibly generous deal that Alme gifted him, Damon was able to serve less than 1 year in prison and avoid ever having to register as a sex offender. Alme's office even went as far as quietly aging the 6-year-old victim up in court documents, reducing Damon's crimes down to having happened to someone under 14. The 6-year-old victim, under 14. It wasn't a one-off situation either. While Alme was state attorney general, his office declined to bring any charges in 64% of the sexual assault cases sent to his office. In North Carolina, Republican candidate Michael Whatley knowingly appointed a child predator to not one, but 2 different leadership positions, including making him chair of one of the state's most powerful committees. In 2000, then police officer Harvey L. West pled guilty to 5 different counts of taking indecent liberties with a child after he was arrested and charged with the statutory rape of 3 girls. 2 of whom were only 14 years old at the time. None of that, however, stopped Michael Whatley from repeatedly elevating his friend the Predator to powerful positions within the state Republican Party. In fact, Whatley's promotion of the convicted sex offender got so bad that other members of the Republican Party had to intervene, ultimately passing a resolution in 2026 to bar anyone convicted of a felony involving violence, sexual abuse, or child abuse from serving in party leadership. In Ohio, Republican incumbent and candidate for re-election Jon Husted has accepted more than $100,000 from Epstein's named co-conspirator Les Wexner. He then subsequently voted against releasing the files mere weeks after he received the most recent check from Wexner. Husted also has a history of not only putting sexual predators into leadership positions, but helping them pass new laws to protect the predators from their victims. In 2006, legislation known as the Clergy Abuse Bill was proposed in direct response to the Catholic Church's massive child abuse scandal. Husted, who was then the Speaker of the Ohio House, personally intervened to water down the bill, removing a provision that would have allowed past victims of childhood sexual abuse a window of opportunity to sue their abuser and any institution that knowingly protected said abuser. In Georgia, Republican incumbent and candidate for re-election Mike Collins apparently decided to just cut out the middleman entirely and become the sexual predator himself. In 2022, while actively running for office, Collins was caught on audio recording non-consensually exposing himself to a massage therapist and sexually grinding on the table he was laying on. In New Hampshire, Republican candidate John Sununu is literally mentioned by name in the Epstein files. In one email, Epstein wrote to an associate of Bill Gates that, quote, John Sununu has good stories. Sununu eventually admitted that he was, in fact, at the specific World Economic Forum event that the men were discussing in the email chain. So Sununu is also, incidentally, currently proudly touting the endorsement of a man who once referred to teenage girls as ripe and fertile. Finally, in Texas, Republican candidate Ken Paxton gave a man charged with continuous sexual abuse of a child a sweetheart deal that allowed the predator to serve only 30 days in jail and avoid ever having to register as a sex offender. Even Paxton's fellow Republicans have been forced to acknowledge how unacceptable his choice to give a child predator that kind of sweetheart deal really was. And in a sane world, any one of the candidates that I just went over would be devastating for a major political party, all on their own. But then again, in a sane world, any major political party would have the integrity to take swift, decisive action to get rid of any candidate with a record of running cover for sexual predators. Unfortunately, we are not living in a sane world, and the Republican Party does not have integrity.